In this lesson, we will discuss the avionics network, IMA. Instead of using conventional wires, most of the aircraft systems can communicate with each other via a high-speed digital network referred to as the avionics network. There are two independent, identical, and redundant avionics networks. For communication on the avionics network, most of the avionics systems use the concept of integrated modular avionics, IMA. Instead of using dedicated computers, integrated modular avionics uses shared hardware for computations and communication on the avionics network. Integrated modular avionics consists of the core processing input-output modules, CPIOMs, and the common remote data concentrators, CRDCs. Most functions run simultaneously on two core processing input-output modules for redundancy. For a computation, the core processing input-output module hosts several functions in order to monitor and control some avionics systems. As a result, one core processing input-output modules can replace several conventional avionics equipment. There are 7 groups of core processing input-output modules in the avionics bay. The makeup of each core processing input-output module group and their functions are outlined in the FCOM. The Common Remote Data Concentrator is a remote gateway and data concentrator module that interfaces a wide range of sensors and/or actuators and some conventional avionics equipment to both avionics networks simultaneously. Most of the aircraft systems that use Common Remote Data Concentrators are connected to 2 or more Common Remote Data Concentrators to ensure the redundancy of all functions of the aircraft systems. There are 29 common remote data concentrators located in the pressurized area of the aircraft next to the relevant groups of sensors and actuators. The avionics network transmits the information that comes from the aircraft systems via several transit points referred to as switches. On each avionics network, the switches automatically manage the communication between the aircraft systems via high-speed digital cables. The avionics network has several pairs of switches. For each pair, one switch is on network A, the other on network B. The avionics network switches are in the avionics bay.
Redundancy is built into the systems. Crews are alerted to individual or multiple failures by ECAM message. Most of the aircraft systems use 2 or more CRDCs. In the case of a single CRDC failure, the remaining CRDCs will maintain communication on the avionics network. There is no operational effect. However, a limited number of aircraft systems are only connected to a single CRDC. If the CRDC fails, the ECAM displays the alerts of the affected aircraft systems, along with a due to IMA module fault subtitle in the second line of the ECAM alert. 3 switches, cables are paired to ensure redundancy of the communication between aircraft systems on both avionic networks. In the case of switch, cable failure of paired equipment, there is no operational effect as the other switch, cable of the pair on the other network maintains the communication between aircraft systems. In the case of single or multiple switch, and/or cable, failures that affect both avionics networks, the communication via the failed switches, and/or cables, is lost. Depending on the failed switches, cables, if the communication between some aircraft systems is no longer possible on both networks, the ECAM displays the alerts of the applicable aircraft systems. In the case of a single CPIOM failure, the aircraft systems controlled and monitored by the failed CPIOM may be affected. In this case, the ECAM displays the alert of the applicable aircraft systems, along with a due to IMA module fault subtitle, in the second line of the ECAM alert title. If all CPIOMs and, or CRDCs connected to an aircraft system fail, the communication between the aircraft system and the avionics networks is lost. The aircraft system that uses the failed IMA modules may be affected. In this case, the ECAM displays IMA module fault before all other alerts of associated aircraft systems. Affected systems will then be displayed on the ECAM along with a, due to IMA module fault subtitle.